Welcome everyone to our first ever Employer Branding Australia podcast. This is a long time in the making and something we're very excited about. We're here to really unpack and understand who we are and what we do and why we do it. And what better way than the men themselves, Mark and Dave, to kick us off and to unpack that all.
Thanks for bringing it all together.
Not a problem at all. I completely forgot we're on camera. All right, so employer branding, what is it?
Yeah, it's one of those questions, right? I think employer branding is now so well known and yet it's so misunderstood. There's a lot of people offering different services in this space. There's a lot of people saying they're very active in this space. So it is important that we're clear on what it means to us in each organizational context. First of all, and this is a classic Dave Concannonism, but employer branding is a business solution to a business problem. It is not a campaign. It is not a glossy slogan. It is certainly not a report listing, we offer purpose and value and culture and belonging. It is really understanding, first of all, what are we trying to achieve as a business, starting with the numbers and the vision and the strategic dimensions. And then it's saying, how are we going to get there through and with the people that we employ? How are we going to attract the talent we need? Who do we need? And why should they join us? And how are we going to go out there and get them? And then how do we keep people with us and keep them engaged? The bit that employer branding does, first of all, is puts those audiences right at the start and the heart of everything. So they're saying, who do we need in this business? Who are they? Where are they? What matters to them? And where does that intersect with what we offer as a place to work? Once you understand that, then you can attack it. So you can bring it to life through your EVP. You can get out there and start telling your stories. But the last thing I want to say is that your employer brand isn't under your entire control. It's not about what you say. It's what other people hear and what they feel and how that drives them to behave. So you have an employer brand, whether you are investing in it or not.
There's a lot of different interpretations about how employer branding should be done and why they should be done. What do you think are the greatest misconceptions and what do we do differently?
Yeah, I kind of go back to the point that Mark mentioned, which is, yes, employer branding, business solution for a business problem, but it starts with strategy for me, not an employer branding strategy, but the organization strategy. Employer branding is a medium to long-term solution. You can't just flick a switch and fix it straight away. You do have to work in line with there. So go to your question, Hannah, where do you start with? And where do you go from there? You start with a strategy and things for the organization. And if you start there, that means how you do it and what it looks like is going to be different. Just like every organization is different, every person is different, there is going to be slight nuances. That being said, and I get your views on this, Mark, that being said, there are kind of tried and true and tested ways that you can get there, proven frameworks and things. But you have to start with the business, with the organization, what's it trying to achieve and where is it trying to go and how is it going to get there with and through the people. And then from there, you figure it out rather than going backwards.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. And something that you talked about many years ago with me when we were designing all this stuff was maturity models. So looking at the maturity of the organization, where are they at in their life cycle? How big are they? What roles and teams do they have internally? We've got some clients now who have employee experience teams, HR business partnering teams, talent acquisition, recruitment, marketing, employer branding, all separate. We have others where there's one HR manager and an assistant. And it's not just about small or large business. What I will say is we've helped clients with very small budgets and with not a lot of time to get amazing recruitment results. You can write a job ad better and you will see better results. That's the beauty of this space. There is that opportunity. We've also done a lot of work in helping people create really simple content that drives engagement and gets really good recruitment results, but also internal uplift, so employee engagement, etc. The issue is that doesn't scale easily. So we always say the three key ingredients are proposition, strategy, and storytelling, but the fourth is process, systems, and habits, especially if you're a larger or more complex organization. Not only how are we going to get some nice people content or improve our job ads, how are we going to consistently attract and retain and inspire the people we need for the next 2-3 years? And who plays a part in that and what role do they play?
Fantastic. I guess then, Dave, a question for you. Who should care about employer branding?
That's a good one. I'm going to be very biased, but I think everybody should care about it in different ways. If we think about an individual employee, they absolutely care about it. You care about the experience you have day to day at your organization, what it's like. That experience, that is the employer brand for that person. If you're in the market and you're looking for a new job and going, looking to see what's out there, you absolutely care about employer brand. That's what you look. When you sit around the kitchen table with your partner and you get that piece of paper and draw a line down the middle, pros and cons on each side, that's employer brand. That's you trying to unpack and understand employer brand and try to understand the EVP, the employee value proposition. Proposition is the key word in there. So everyone in terms of the individuals. As you go into the organizational level, well, yeah, the head of HR, the head of people and culture, the head of marketing, everybody again should still care about it. And if we go right up to the C-suite and think around that CEO who she's accountable for delivering the business to the shareholders or to the owners, and she's got targets, she should absolutely care about this, number one. If she's delivering a product or a service that is dependent on people in any way, shape, or form, then employer brand is critical to her strategic success. It has to be, because you win with and through your people. You just have to think about the last time you bought a product or a service that you interacted with a person, you interacted with an employer brand.
I think that's fascinating. And if I would honestly say, and I'm not just saying this to be cute, if there's one person in the organization who needs to care above anybody else, it is the CEO of that organization. The hard bit is the CEO isn't going to be thinking about it straight away. So a lot of people say to us, how do you get a business case? How do you get people, leaders invested in this? The first thing is you don't start by saying, please can I have some money to do some employer branding? Because no CEO wants to do employer branding. But does a CEO want to consistently be able to bring in the right people who are going to thrive in this organization? Does the CEO want to have a culture where people are genuinely grateful to be there and proud and inspired and empowered to actually drive the success and fixing the problems and solving the issues? They want those things. Any CEO I speak to hundreds of CEOs every year, they will all agree the most important factor in whether we achieve what we need to achieve or not is the people we have and how they behave. So they really care about employer branding. They really need to. They just don't know it yet.
So how do you recommend you communicate with that CEO? How do you let them know that they do need to really care about employer branding?
Yeah, funnily enough, I've just written a workshop about this, and we have a business case guide for this stuff. The first thing I'll always say is people focus on the business case. What should I write? 60%, I reckon, of the decision of whether they're going to back you and give you the budget is already made before they even read what you've put together. So the first thing I would say to anyone in talent, culture, brand, comms, the first thing you do before you think about a spend with us or with anyone else is my role and is our team's role strategically aligned to what the CEO is trying to achieve and what the board are trying to achieve, the stuff that Dave's talking about. If you don't know what that is, then you need to find out. And just by going out and asking and finding out, that's going to position you better already. So start with that. But really, anytime, not just in a business case, but anytime you are speaking publicly or with a senior leader or with anyone else for that matter about your job, consistently frame it aligned with what the business is trying to achieve. So you're not in charge of filling some roles. You're in charge of helping us staff the future of this business. You're not in charge of maybe you're going to do a recognition program, capturing the moments that matter, a bit of managers celebrating their teams or the teams celebrating each other. That's not an initiative. That is a really critical strategy that is going to ensure that your people stay proud and connected and that you convert that into performance. That's the stuff the CEO cares about.
Anything to add?
If I think around what does the CEO care about, and you want to go to that CEO and convince them, get your business case or help in there. Again, it goes back to the strategy for me, and it's around that comparative or competitive advantage. At a really top level, if me and Mark have two businesses, we're both selling widgets out in the market. If my organization is better able to attract and retain and engage the people I need, and I can do that better than Mark's organization, I'm going to have a higher chance of succeeding in the marketplace. It's as simple as that. So you start with that competitive or that comparative advantage. And it's the better my capability at employer branding, at attracting and retaining and engaging the people I need, the more likely I'm going to succeed. And you start with that point and work back from there. the real benefit for me of employer branding isn't, okay, we'll do some employer branding, we'll get a nice EVP and we'll amplify it and get it out there. Isn't, well, that's great, everything fixed. The real value for me is often how it stitches everything else together. So again, two things we've kind of talked about for strategic value in here. It's more medium long term. So that's what strategy typically is. It's not short term. It's not today or next week. And the other thing for strategy is that it's integrated. So it's how it connects with everything else. So employer branding can help, it connects the external environment to the internal environment, the candidate experience to the employee experience, the promise to the reality. It connects all of that really, really strongly. It connects things that you do in workforce planning. Who's the talent we need next year, 3 years, 5 years for the future of our business? It connects that workforce planning to recruitment. Who are we recruiting today? Are we recruiting potential today that can grow into those roles? It just connects so much. I think there's real value in the process. I see the EVP process again and again when we do it. It's like that thread that runs through your different talent actions that you're doing in an organization, and just binds it together. It's not necessarily leading the way. It's not driving the way. It's not like sometimes employer branding is look at me, it's all about me. It's not. It's around the thread that connects it and helps a lot of it make sense.
And I think just building on that, Hannah, we asked about who needs to care. I think if the CEO needs to care most and really grab hold the ownership of inspiring it to happen, the two roles, if you're simplifying, the two roles that really need to own the execution and the impetus, it's the CHRO or HR director or people and culture director and the CMO or the chief marketing, the head of marketing. Those two roles, and I bang on about this all the time, employer branding doesn't start with marketing. It doesn't mean that marketing isn't pivotal, and it doesn't mean it's one team over another. What it means is it starts with how are we going to win and succeed and achieve what we want to achieve because of the people we have and how they feel and how they behave. So therefore, it's people and culture driven, but it's applying brand marketing, storytelling, content marketing principles. So you get this expertise. When you fuse the two together, it's amazing. But the biggest issue, and I see it all the time, is marketing don't get it or HR don't get it. And one side wants to do it and then the other one doesn't. The classic, and I wonder how many people watching this or listening to this will agree with this, marketing won't let us post on LinkedIn, or marketing saying, recruitment just want to advertise vacancies all the time. That's just the wrong approach. We need to start right at the beginning and move away from the current vacancies and the current burning platforms and say, what are we trying to achieve? How are we going to recruit the talent we need for the foreseeable? How are we going to keep people really engaged and proud? How will we use social media, content marketing, internal comms to achieve those goals? And actually, everybody wants the same things, and yet there's constant division and silos.
We see that, sorry to cut across, but I see that so much where it's set up when we partner with an organization or talk to someone, you come in and it is set up as a false dichotomy straight away. It's either or, and it's, marketing is always on one side and TA might be on the other and HR might be in the middle and what have you. And if you look at it as either or, you're off to a loser straight away. You have to get that right, because otherwise you end up with a really nice EVP that talks to your people and that can do that job, that sits in a shared drive with a nice polished video that also sits in a shared drive because no one can agree just how to post the thing.
But I don't think like I see a lot of despair. People go, oh God, people, they're not going to listen. Marketing's never going to let us, or brand or corporate comms. People will get there, but you've got to frame it in the right way. You've got to start with, what are you trying to achieve? A classic one with EVP is marketing or comms or brand potentially worrying about it, having issues. The first question is, what's worrying you? Because actually most of the things that those folks are worrying about, if HR does a EVP, are red herrings. They're non-events, right? But you have to go into an EVP process respectful of the wider brand, really thinking about the brand guidelines, the tone of voice, the feel, and ensuring that everybody is being heard and involved. You can avoid so many of the issues that people are afraid will come to the fore.
A really good example of that, where it's not either or. I remember talking to a local council and talking to their head of marketing and talking to their head of HR. We're having that discussion around, we can't, and in fairness, the head of marketing is, I can't post that. I need to hit these KPIs and these targets. And there was, at the time, they were getting ready for disaster relief and sandbagging and all of that. And again, it was a real good example of how it's not either or.
And what an opportunity that is.
Yeah. And go, here's where you can get here's where you can get your sandbags. This is what we're doing, and provide all of that info that you had to provide, that community awareness. But also, here's Mark, here's Hannah. They're working in the depot. You're going to meet them, and they'll support you, and they're in the community, and so it does both at the same time.
Getting community members positive about council, filling aged care beds. If there's no better way to get people to use your services, to come and buy from you, than showcase, celebrate, and elevate the people behind the product and the service and how much they care. And when you do that authentically, it's immensely powerful.
You actually did cover what I was going to ask, actually. I wanted to know what the steps were to get on the same page, to get HR, marketing and everything.
Yeah, again, I go back, get your CEO on board, because they're the ones, that's the one person who usually will be able to stamp on marketing or HR if they're not coming to the table. It probably sounds very negative, but ideally you don't get to that point. But the CEO needs to get it. But then it really is building that consensus. It is still the case, I would argue 95% of marketing teams believe that they are entirely focused on commercial marketing. And they've misunderstood, as Dave said, that it's not either or, that putting your people at the front of your brand authentically, giving them the mic, showing what goes on behind the scenes, it is how you win business now.
I'm going to slightly circle back. I really want to touch on your background, Dave, with strategic workforce planning. So how much of your background, your understanding what you do, is shaping how we understand employer branding and what we do, Employer Branding Australia?
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Well, as people hear me say all the time, I'm the HR geek in the business, and quite happy to be. I know my lane, if you like, but I just look at HR really about helping people succeed in organizations across there. So whether it's HR business partnering, or whether it's workforce planning or learning and development or performance and management, remuneration benefits, whatever area of speciality is HR, it connects, again, as I said, EVP can be the thread that connects all of those together. So strategic workforce planning makes absolute sense and great kind of alignment with employer branding. Who are the people we need to deliver our strategy next year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it might be? Well, employer branding, how are we going to reach them? The channels, what's the message we're going to send them to attract them? So that kind of makes sense. That's all really, really nice and neat. But when we look at things like performance management, and that would be one that people mightn't immediately link to an EVP or employer branding. But that is absolutely true. Who are the people that we want to attract and perform in a particular way? Why should they care? Why should they perform? What's in it for them? So there's so many ways of communicating that message. Go back to your organizations, pick a handful of leaders and ask them, what does performance mean? And you'll ask 10 leaders, you probably get 12 answers, depending on when you ask them. So an EVP, again, that common thread can help, simple, straightforward, easy to understand language, put a bit of structure on that conversation and go, what does performance look like in an organization? You align it with your other strategic message, purpose, values, your vision, all of that kind of connects together.
Okay, Mark. So if Dave is our resident HR nerd, who are you? And what do you bring to the table?
God only knows who I am. I, more than anything else, I'm the brand and the marketing guy. I'm the culture guy and the connection guy, and the emotional one, and that plays through in how I am in the business, but also what I bring. It's interesting hearing Dave talk about the strategic workforce planning, and you wouldn't necessarily think that values or skills and behaviours would form part of employer branding. They absolutely do sync. What frustrates me the most, and actually it was a major driver in why I set up the business back in 2018, was because employer branding brings together talent, culture, comms, brand. It all sits together, and leadership, all of these things. And yet it's fallen away to be just a campaign in so many environments. We've got brand agencies, and I don't care how biased this sounds, we've got brand agencies that sell toothpaste and then do a bit of EVP or employer branding. Good on you if you really do understand people and culture and strategic, culture development and workforce planning, and how do we win through our people and with our people.
Come work with us for a refreshing career with extra fluoride.
There it is. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Find your place.
Yeah, find your plaque. Oh, dear.
Look, It is so wrong and it is so underdone. Employer branding is not just a campaign. It's not just a glossy slogan, as I said. So what I love, and it not only has been what's driven our success, such as we've had it, but has also shaped our careers and our culture and our team, is that wonderful combination. HR nerds, people and culture, and he calls it a nerd. I mean, I'm a massive fanboy of everything HR and people and culture because it is so undervalued and misaligned in so many ways in people's perception. When you combine that with genuine, authentic, and I'm underlining authentic, strategic brand and marketing, wow, it is so unbelievably powerful. I'm nauseatingly enthusiastic about this stuff because it bloody well works. It doesn't automatically work. It's not silver bullet every time, but neither is it hit or miss. When you do the right things and you underpin it with the right strategic principles, both from brand and HR and people and culture, you will see huge results and progress, not only in recruitment and so on, but actually in that sense of momentum among your team. An EVP, we always say, should be a magnet to attract and attract the people that you want and need and put off the others. It should be a compass, that blueprint for where are we going on talent, what do we need to focus on? And most importantly, especially if your organization is going through change or uncertainty or challenge, it's a call to arms. I don't meet many amazing HR people who are really awesome at brand and marketing. And I certainly don't meet many brand and marketing people who really understand people and culture. When you combine the two, your organization is going to fly.
Excellent. Okay, so I guess it's along the same vein. But why should someone invest time and obviously money in employer branding? What is the benefit?
Oh my gosh, where do I start? I'm going to start, Dave, okay? Improved recruitment outcomes. So you will get a higher volume of quality applicants. When I say quality applicant, I don't just mean they've got a good resume. I mean they are motivated to join you for the right reasons. They're going to be able to thrive in your organization and you are a great choice for them. What is the cost to your business today of not filling vacancies quickly enough or well enough, of people coming in who then leave quickly, of having to scrape the bottom of the barrel and say, well, I guess we'll hire that person then because we don't have many candidates. How much are you spending on inefficient recruitment because nobody knows about you and because people perceive that you're not going to be a great choice for them when you could be? So better recruitment outcomes. It is a major benefit of employer branding. Reduced early attrition. So people less likely to leave quickly because if you've done it properly, they're inspired not just about the lovely stuff, but about the challenges they're going to solve. I bang on about this all the time. An EVP should focus on where you are today and where you're heading and what that means, because that's the attraction for great talent. So recruitment, early attrition gets reduced. Ongoing retention should increase, although just retention going up is not a good thing necessarily. It's the performance and engagement. My favorite metric around employer branding, EVP and otherwise, is time to consistent success. And what I mean by that, and it's not always easy to track, what I'm saying is that when you hire the right people in the right way, and before they applied, they were already keen to explore this with you on the right, with the right notions, people will land quicker. They will pass probation quicker. The training wheels come off and they can actually hit the ground running and genuinely start solving problems and contributing quicker. And that for most businesses, for most CEOs, is gold. Oh, engagement and all the rest of it. Of course, if your people are motivated and engaged, they're going to perform.
Well, the question around why should I spend money on this? Why should I invest on this? You invest in something because you look for a return. So to kind of add to what Mark says and build in there, and I see this time and time again every day, there's so much value in the process, in the actual process of going through crafting, uncovering, understanding an EVP. And I was trying to think of the notes in there to pull that together. So value in the process is value in the process through connection. The amount of group sessions I do where someone comes into it and they're like, my job is so tough. I have the toughest job. Everybody has the toughest job in the organization, everyone, except in our organization, I clearly have the toughest job.
You do actually.
everybody has the... Everyone says they have the toughest organization till you're in a group session and you hear what everybody else in the business is doing and what they're tackling with. And sometimes it's similar problems and you go, oh, I'm not alone. So there's great value in that connection. Other times it's that other part of value in the process. It brings perspective. So it goes, oh, I'm not alone, but I could be a lot worse. This person is dealing with so much on their side of the organization, and you have that. And a great example with a client where there was 2 people in this group session. And we were having a little chat at the beginning, kind of the preamble as people were joining. And they were like, "Oh, hi, Mark. Nice to actually meet you." And I was like, "Oh, do you guys know each other?" And they're like, "Oh, we email each other every day." But they'd never met. They had never met in person. They email each other every day, 2 ends of a kind of process. The strangest thing ever that came out, they work in the same building.
Yeah.
They work in the same building. There was just 2 different floors. And just people don't bother using the stairs or lift for one thing when they're doing it. So there was value in that connection. These 2 ends of a process, people who owned that start and finish of the process that was integral to the business and what they were trying to do, is absolutely going to be better if these people have a connection and a personal connection, a relationship that goes beyond email.
And what I like about that is it's not just, they happen to be in the session together. It's what we're having them talk about. So the value, and we could write a thesis on this, right? But it's the value of employees sitting together and examining on the table, what is it like to work here? And why do I stay here? And if I left, what would I not miss? There's real power in employees reflecting. There's so much at work and in careers and in marketing and in talent and recruitment. There's so much sleepwalking. We're just going through the motions. Stopping and taking that moment to reflect is immensely powerful.
I think it's incredible because we don't often have those big conversations, especially with a big group of people. And I'm going to add my own anecdote. But I think one of my favorite outputs or results of one of our discovery sessions is someone working on this huge problem that was solved within a discovery session because they were like, "Oh, I'm really struggling with this." And another person put their hand up and said, totally. "I have your answer." And without having those big conversations and the value in the process, bringing those people together, they would have spent months trying to figure that out again.
Conversely, I sat in a middle manager session, and this person, she kept coming back every time. "My team doesn't get any recognition. Nobody recognizes my team." And she went on and on, and I could see everybody else had got the memo. She carried on going. And then somebody very respectfully, it was all on screen, online, and somebody very respectfully said, "But you're their manager, isn't that your job?" Wonderful moment, actually, where you saw the penny drop. And again, I really hope that afterwards that was that saw some progression. But there are amazing things happen in those sessions.
There's a great, you remind me of something really kind of good in there. We've talked a lot about the values of EVP to attract, in engagement and what have you. But that piece around the value in the storytelling and celebrating your people. I worked with a client recently, and they were in a really good situation. It was kind of a quirk of their location and the industry they were in. But they weren't recruiting massive numbers. They were quite stable organization. They didn't have a turnover problem. Again, function kind of their location, if you like. Maybe there was a few that they could do with moving on, but generally they were quite good. Looked at their culture, got to talk to them, and it was like really fantastic culture. There were about 200, 250 people. So they were at that size where everyone kind of knew each other just enough. They hadn't got crazy big. So here you go. You have an organization that has like good culture, great stories to tell, not really an massive attraction problem, not really a massive retention problem. And you go, why would they want EVP? And it comes back to that point of celebrating their people. Yeah. Just telling those stories and sharing them and acknowledging them, and they weren't doing it. And it took me, maybe two months of working with them, and it was story after story, money donated to the local hospital, and how they would go all these events they did. They're like really, really good culture. It took me 2 months of scratching and getting under the surface to find out about that. Yeah. Why would you not celebrate that? Celebrate and recognize your people and what you're doing. It's just such a missed opportunity.
Agreed. Okay, then Dave, what is your advice for someone, I guess, who's very new in their employee branding journey? They want to get started. They don't know where. What advice would you give them?
Start small, but do start. That's the key. Often organizations, especially smaller, medium-sized organizations, they'll think of employer branding project being this big, huge initiative, this big lumber something, and we can't get started now because we have to have everything perfect to do it. Just start it, and you can do this internally. Start with yourself. Just start asking people of why they choose to work here. Ask them what they're proud of. Ask them about what they're excited for the future. Take your key leaders. Ask them to write down why someone should choose to join this organization, and just look at those responses. And if you've blank pages, well, you definitely have a bit of work to do. If your senior leaders can't articulate a single reason that you should join work there. If you get a lot of stuff on your pages, but it's like, because we pay market rates, or we have, end of trip facilities in the basement, whatever it might be. If that's where you are, focused on those kind of functional benefits and only kind of in the game, well, there's work to be done in there. And then it goes back to my point about the value in the process. One of the pieces of value that comes from the process is around insight. So Mark mentioned surveys, and I love a good survey. Don't get me wrong; I'm all in favor of that. But it never tells a picture on its own. Going through a really kind of effective EVP process allows you to pull at that thread, to understand a little bit more of what's really going behind there. Why do you choose to work here? Because it's the people. Well, what is it about the people? Well, it's not all the people. It's really just my mate Janine, who I work with. And you go through that and you start to unpack this. So it's really, really kind of important to pull that together. So my advice, if you're looking to start small, but do start and build from there. And then you'll find where the gaps are, you'll find where the challenges are. And that's where you look at reaching out to a partner, or looking out and expanding that, or setting up a plan, a goal, strategy for yourself.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, it is a classic, another David Kincannon school of thought, but start with what the problem you're trying to solve. If you're, I think the biggest and most exciting trend in employer branding in Australia and New Zealand right now is the democratization of employer branding. And it's been that way for a couple of years, but it's continuing. And by that, I mean more and more smaller and less glamorous and lower budget organizations who are realizing they can do this. So the first thing I say to somebody starting out, especially if you're on limited resources or time or budget, is remove this myth about brand being about big. You're not trying to be a household name. If you do concrete manufacturing supplies, or if you're a hairdresser in a specific local area, or whatever you're doing, if you're one aged care place or disability service provider in an area, what matters is understanding who are the people that we want in our organization. Do they know about us? What do they know about us? How do they feel about us? You can move the dial very quickly based on some better job ads, a little bit of content, and as Dave said, underpinned by genuinely some insight that can come directly from your people. Don't assume that working with a partner means you're going to have to spend a lot of money either. Give us a call. We're super happy to help, but we will usually give you free advice anyway. But we can also, with small amounts of spend, we've actually helped people really get great results.
Do you want to share any of those results?
Sure, absolutely. On one top of my head, we had a disability service provider who they were trying to get allied health practitioners into disability. They had the biggest issue they actually had big budgets, but no one was unlocking them. The exec didn't want to spend on anything related to employer branding. And they couldn't hire people. So for 3 months, they had internal and external recruiters running around trying to hired 0 people, 0. And they had many open roles. We picked 4 employees that we chose with them based on who they are and their journey and their story. We developed a written story about each and a small video. It was a small amount of budget spend at the end of a financial year. They hired 44 people using that content. And from their perspective, that was the only thing they did differently. They saved $325,600 plus GST in talent spend, and by that I mean recruitment fees, agency fees, locum fees, etc. Even more importantly, the internal metrics. Their employee referrals for recruitment roles went through the roof. Their nominations for employee of the year or quarter, that quarter were absolutely off the charts. And my client contact went back and asked, why did you vote? Why did you do this? Every single time they said, we saw these stories, I saw these stories, and I just felt, oh my goodness, we've got to do more to celebrate each other. Exactly Dave's point. And I'll tell you one extra story on that, if anybody's still listening to me. I remember when they were about to post this content, we had these amazing stories, these beautiful, extraordinary, everyday humans. And the marketing team were about to put them out, and they said, we're just a bit worried that we might come across as arrogant, showing off. What's your advice? And I said, just don't be arrogant and don't show off. Why do we always put stuff out there and blessed and humbled and we're a leading employer of this? Just showcase the people and how much they care and what they do and how they feel and why they do it, and then get out the way. That's really great employer branding.
We've touched on the basics of employer branding and how to start your journey, but let's go even further back. What is an EVP?
Okay. An EVP is a really clear understanding of the organizational narrative and the organization as it is seen through the people of the organization, including your leaders. It really brings to life who you are today, where you've come from, and what that and where you're heading, and what all of that means for your current team and your future team. In practice, for us, it's very much about a structural framework that says what are the key pillars of our EVP, and critically, what are the angles of those pillars. It then has a brand device, and that brand device is built on a core branding concept and positioning, if you like, that has a lead line, which is like a slogan for a strap line for careers. I invented the term lead line. I think I did, because I was worried that marketing might be worried I was stealing the strap. But it is a lead line that really captures the attention and becomes a door that you want to open. It then has specific messaging. What is our brand messaging that says why work for us? Why join us? What's it going to be like? What are you going to get? And critically, why stick around and keep coming back even when it's hard? So combination of structural framework, really deep understanding, a brand concept and great positioning, clear messaging, and then some awesome copywriting to bring that story to life. That's the start, and then you're into storytelling, and that's where the rubber really hits the road.
So I'd add to that around employee value proposition. Agree kind of 100% of what you're in there. But again, if we look at the heart of it, employee value proposition, that's what it is. A key thing in there. So that's what do I get from this employee relationship, and what do I contribute? Okay, there's a give and take. It's an exchange in there. The other way I look at it is as a framework, and a framework, a way to distill all the talent messages that we put out there. Everything from our vision, our purpose, our values, our reconciliation action plan, this strategy, that strategy. We have all this stuff we try to tell our people. And I think a good EVP framework, those kind of pillars about what we're about, what makes us different, where can we hang our hat, that's like a way that you can distill all those messages into the 3 to 5 things that most people can only hold in their head anyway, and that they're interested. So that allows you to use that in so many different ways. The EVPs that I really, really love kind of, get my HR mind going, and I love to see how clients use them in interviews.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so yes, this is what you get. What attracted you most about these 3 things of why you work here, and how are you going to contribute to those? How do you see them in there?
I agree, and I love we talk about when you're getting managers up for interviews. I love using it not just to say what inspires you and a bit of the reinforcing the positive, but it's saying I always think it's interesting. Let's say you've got a really great pillar in your EVP that's all around growth and development, and if the recruiter says to the manager, look, in this role, how is someone going to experience that? And the manager says, the truth is, first 6 months, head down, no development, no training, just get it done. Great. Let's discuss that at interview. So you put it on the table, you say, look, this is a really great place for career development and growth and opportunity. The first 6 months, it is get your head down, get this done. So let's talk about what that's going to feel like for you, how you're going to go with that, but also what do you want to do after that, and where are we going? So you're really brokering this collaboration between manager and employee, which is really what's going to make it sink or swim.
Before we wrap up, I would love to touch on storytelling a little deeper. Why is storytelling so important and integral to what we do and what we deliver?
Like, storytelling is integral to everything. You listen to First Nations people and hear what they have to say about storytelling. Who we are and how we show up is hugely impacted and shaped by what we've been through, especially the hard stuff, right? We all agree on this. The way that we make sense of each other and the way that we form bonds is by sharing our experiences. And how do you do that? You do that through sharing your stories. All the research will tell you people don't remember percentages, numbers. Certainly don't remember big paragraphs written by corporate comms. what they remember as stories, and because it's not just about someone tells a story and you receive the story. You interpret that person through the way they tell their story, and you connect to parts of it. And there'll be bits that will be very meaningful to you directly, and others that might not. So storytelling is what connects us, and there is no better way to attract great people to come and work for you, to keep your people proud and connected and engaged. And I'd argue there's no better way to win business than to actually tell the stories of this organization, this crazy, weird, imperfect organization, and the crazy, weird, imperfect people who choose to work there.
Storytelling for me is similar to what you said. It's about connection. That's what it's all about. And if we talk about, we've talked about EVP and employer branding. It's around attracting and retaining people. It's around connecting to people. It's around those people connecting to other people in the organization or the clients or the customers that you serve. It's around those people connecting to performance, connecting them to the performance, which the organization isn't going to be around very long without that performance. And then crucially, it's around how that performance connects to results. So for me, storytelling is the start of that, of connecting people to other people, connecting those people to performance, that performance to results. So connection to people. That's around how we relate to people. It's around how we empathize with people. It's emotional. That's what storytelling is about. And stories can do that in no other way, because we've been doing it for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Telling stories, that allows us to create those personal links. And sometimes we look at storytelling and it's kind of big capital S and it's a bit scary and it's off there, and we think of Disney or Pixar or something like that. We tell stories every day, every single day, with our kids, our colleagues, the whole lot. We tell stories and a story at its simplest form is just something happened, resulted in a change.
I love that.
That's the change. Is simple in there. So why should I join your organization? Well, tell me a time if something happened. It was the last employee who joined and how it resulted in change. The change they impacted and the change this organization had on them. So it can be as simple as that.
And what I like is what you're saying is it's not just human to human, it's employee to organization. I think people and organizations are pretty good at telling stories from the past. How good are you at writing stories live? How good are you at writing the story of where you are today and what's happening each day? Dave's the best in the business at this in terms of how he does it internally in the culture. When you can narrate that and capture that and externalize that across your business and potentially out there on social media and elsewhere, you're showing people the real. You're showing people the struggle and the striving, not just the, Margaret's done 50 years, let's get her a cake and put a photo on LinkedIn. It is so embedded in the essence of why we bother to come to work and why it's worth it.
It's about the striving. It's around striving for what? Yeah, Mary did 50 years and we bought her a cake, and then we all ate up the cake and we went back to our days like, so what? Yeah. Who cares in there? Who cares in there? But Mary spent 50 years with her, and this is what she's achieved, and this is her storyteller, and these are the people she's impacted through there. That's a whole lot different.
So EVP,
where's that story on LinkedIn?
Exactly. So EVP, bringing it back to that, EVP employer brand, you know what it really is? Why is this worth it? Why should you bother?
Well, there's your sound bite to end on. Well done. That's great. I'm curious. We've touched a lot on the EVP, but we haven't spoken much about values and the importance that they play in an organisation. Who wants to jump in?
100%. I'll talk about values. Again, you can go on LinkedIn, go wherever you like, and you can get lots of different interpretations of values and everything. It's the values that matter are the ones that matter for your organization and your people. So if you call them principles or you call them our ways of working, whatever you call them, that's great if that works for you. But the values are really define how we strive to behave. When it's easy, yeah, that's pretty easy. You can take that one. But especially when it's hard and when it's difficult, you talk about when people aren't looking.
Yeah.
And that example in values. I talked about performance before. Performance is really behavior. It's behaving in a desirable way, in a particular way, and that comes down to values, and that guides it.
I totally agree. And if you, so I sort of, I call my company Employer Branding Australia. And so people assume, well, they wouldn't do values and culture. I'm like, of course we do. It makes so much sense. Maybe we should call it Employer Values Australia or something. But the thing about the values are, how do we succeed? How do we survive? How do we make this worth it? What is the secret sauce? It's not just what matters to me as an individual, right? It's we bring together all these diverse people in different stages of their life and in their career. It's an orchestra. What is it that keeps us connected? Well, the values play a huge part. And EVP done properly says, why should I? What's in it for me, of course, but not just what's in it for me, how much money and what's, free fruit on a Friday or an extra day off on your birthday. That's fine. That's part of the functional element of the EVP. But fundamentally, if I join your organization, if I come and work in your team, Hannah, for 18 months, how will I be different at the end of that? How will my career be different? How will my resume be different? How will my sense of fulfillment and validation and consequence be different? What will my resume look like? What will my skills behind it look like? And if that isn't affected by the culture and the values of the organization, how we behave and how we get to where we want to go, then what is?
I think that's really interesting. And I wonder how many managers ask themselves those questions when they have new people coming on their team and like doing that reflection on how will I impact my teams?
Not enough, and not with enough intention or intentionality. People, it's like recruitment. You say you get someone in a room, I can sell it to them, I can show them and get them excited. Well, why? What about all the people who never made it into the room? Values so often have become words on a poster on a wall, or a stick that your people can beat you with when they don't like a decision you've taken. And it is such a shame. I've seen this time and time again. We've done it, right? Organizations, they galvanize, they affirm, they reinforce. How are we choosing to play this game? How are we choosing to get where we want to go? And what does that mean for you as the individual contributor in terms of what we need from you and what the standards are that we're all committing to and agreeing to, but also what you'll get and what it will feel like?
I think a bit to your point around the line managers, we so much gets pushed onto them to solve that. They have to communicate our strategy. They have to drive performance. They have to be pastors and mentors and all of these things to their people. Oh, and the values, can you push that out? So too often we, I think we expect too much of our middle managers, our line managers. And what we need to do is give them a lot more support in there. So again, well-structured, kind of co-created values can be a support for them and help them do their job, but not if you just give it to them and abandon it and stick it on a wall and that's it.
The perfect example is the best place for values is in the hard conversations. If somebody is, maybe they're the top salesperson, but they're horrible to people, or people don't want to be in a room with them, or they overtalk and don't listen to others. There's such an opportunity. You put them on the table, and not just they're the values, so, well, you're not living to me. It's not that. It's saying, look, this is a fundamental value in our team or in our business. This is how we win. You're achieving this and this, and that's fantastic. But this one keeps coming back to mind for me. And last Tuesday, when in that meeting you did this was the impact. What do you think? And you just pause. And that's the ability to have a hard conversation. But the values frame it. And the key is the angle, as Dave implied.
When we talk to groups of employees, and one of the questions we'll ask, we dig in on the values a little bit, but I'll never ask what are the values in the organization or can you recite them or anything. I'll look at how they come to the meeting, how they dial in, how they treat each other in the little preamble, how they talk over each other or make space for each other to talk. So I'll look at how the values, look at how they behave. And then we'll map those back to the values. So I might share with that organization, and we'll sit down with that C-suite and we'll talk them through. And we'll say, you're a values-driven organization. They have no idea what your values are, but they live them every day. Any CEO worth their salt is going to take that. Yeah. I will absolutely take people living our values and demonstrating them and caring for each other and doing all the things that we want them to do, but they can't recite the words we put up on a page. Great, fantastic. I would say they're really good, effective values.
But the challenge I throw down to any exec team straight away is, do you believe your values? And I don't mean do you live them, integrity, respect, teamwork, communication, whatever. Actually, I'm not anti using words like that. You think you'd expect me as the marketing guy to want to do something different. Not necessarily. But what I really would ask an exec team and the CEO and the board, by the way, is what do you understand by these values? What do they mean to you? And then if we can get a consistent understanding to say, yep, it's broadly this and this and this, and it's not this, then where is that articulated? How is that shown? And what about if I go and ask 10 people on the floor, what do you think? What will they tell me? But if your exec team deep down thinks they were just some HR nonsense or some consultant came in and did them, they're pointless. Worse than, they're going to be problematic.
The examples of how those values come to life and everything is really good, and that brings us to kind of storytelling. That's what it is. If you're a CEO or anyone in the organization, if they say, well, this is our value around integrity, we have a value in that around doing the right thing, however you might phrase it, and they go in there and they go, that's it, make sure you do the right thing, and everyone comes out going, right, going to do the right thing. Well, what's the right thing? It's different depending on what the situation is you're facing. I had 2 organizations, and I talked to 2 people at both of them. They both had a value around integrity and doing the right thing and looking after your people. Both these 2 ladies were getting ready to go on parental leave within the next month. One organization had her meeting as she's kind of winding up and planning to go, and her boss said, oh, you're going to be an accountant, but you're not going to be a very good accountant. You're obviously not prioritizing your career. And that's the sentiment they had going off out the door. So you can imagine, we talk about moments that matter, you can do that. The other person, different organization, different sector and everything like that, again, but they had similar value, different words, similar value around integrity and doing a thing. She told me, and it was 2 months before she went on, she'd just gotten a promotion. Okay. And she was like, I had to double check because I'm going on leave. Maybe it was wrong or whatever. And it was like, no, that was it. We're investing in you and driving that and what have you. 2 organizations, essentially the same value. The actual story behind them is 2 different organizations completely. So a simple takeaway for your values is everyone in your organization, and certainly the leaders and the influencers in your organization, should be able to tell a story for each of those values of this is what it looks like, and also the anti-value, this is what it doesn't look like.
When you speak with an organisation and they have values but they're not going well, they're not useful and they're not lived, what has often gone wrong?
Yeah, it's a good question, Hannah. There's lots of different pitfalls in this, but the first one is creating them away from your people. So the classic is the exec team on the executive retreat or on the away day, they come up with them. Now, I want to be really clear. Your executive, your senior leaders have a huge influence and sway around the organization and what it feels and therefore the values. So they should absolutely have a lot of input into this, especially around how fit for purpose is our culture, our cultures, and our values for the future and where we're heading. But you have to get involved. You have to get your people involved in this process. So the first is doing them away from that. Because what I see is people, they go away, they get excited about them, somewhere between the bungee jump and the financial numbers, they come up with these things. And then they send an all-staff email and say, here's the new values, ta-da, go and live them, please. Even if those values are really valuable and accurate and appropriate, your people are not going to engage. So involve them. And another challenge I find is a lot of people will get an employee working group, one group, and it's very neat because it sort of indicates to me that you're paying lip service, or get the employees to do it, then no one can have a go at us. It's one group of people, and there's a lot of pressure on a team. And linked to that, whether it's the execs or the one group or an employee survey, which I think that on its own is the worst of all, you're asking people to just vote on words. So the biggest thing I'll say is obviously listen to your people, involve your people. But before you get anywhere near, it's anything with marketing. Why do we jump for the pen? Why do we start creating straight away? Before you get anywhere near crafting anything, listen and understand and allow yourself a cliche and say, okay, so there's something about integrity or ownership, or there's something about teamwork. Let that sit. But understand what is the angle of those values and how do they package together. When you really have deep insight and really understand the nuances, your values can partner up really beautifully. So the classic one is if you've got a value that you say, yeah, we are that, but there are quite a few ways in which we're definitely not that, as Dave said. Well, another value sitting alongside it can do a beautiful job of balancing it out. I think, I'll give you an example in our business, Employer Branding Australia. We have this real sort of individual accountability and ownership. Everybody's set up, we're very outcomes focused, and it's weird because at the same time we have a very collective culture and a very warm and supportive culture, I hope. Mm-hmm. How do you balance out those two things? And we talk about, we have one value, which is we travel together, and it is all about, we're here, we support each other, we choose to to help each other and to challenge each other. But at the same time, we have strive for great and we have integrity always. And it's actually in the combination of those that you tell the real story of this business, where people are highly accountable, where they are self-driven and self-motivated, where you can't just coast at all. But that when life hits you, when, even if you're just having a day when you're not very motivated, that's absolutely fine. And we're here to help you get there. And if life throws you lemons, we'll help you make some lemonade.
Oh, no. You went there.
Are we going to edit that out? Are we editing that out?
It's staying.
Oh, dear.
Welcome
I was
to
waiting.
marketing.
Excellent.
I think that there's a piece on values for me where sometimes they are set and forget. So Mark talked a lot of, well, how were they created? And absolutely agree with that. Like, they need to be co-created and that brought together. But you have your values then. So values are how we behave. When the environment changes, the external environment, the world changes out there, does that change how we behave? In some ways, no. We should be true to our values is the thing. But on the other way, it should certainly be tweaked or looked at least. And going, is the behaviors we have, are they still suitable for this kind of environment? Similarly, the organization, so internal, how we behave. We have our values, we've built them, and they're therefore where we are now. If you're an organization that's growing, and hopefully you are, you're going to be in a different spot. So the values that were really, really important to you, maybe in your startup phase, could be quite different when you get to a more mature stage and you're looking in there. So I'm not saying they're just convenient and you can dispose them of where you are. You should never do that lightly, but it is always worth looking at them, revisiting them, and going, are these still true for us? Are they still serving us? Are we still delivering them?
And if they're created well as a device, like an EVP, they will absolutely cascade.
They have that adaptability and flexibility built into them. So it's not around blank page and we start off again, because you're not going to change that much. The environment isn't going to change that much and that quickly. But it can't be set and forget as all. There are moments as well in an organization where, same as our own personal values, sometimes we don't live up to them. We strive. We're all kind of human. Same for an organization. If you don't live up to them, maybe, you've gone through some redundancies or downsizing or something like that, and your values of, we all travel together, we've got each other back, suddenly look a bit, nobody's kind of buying them. So those things can happen, but you don't then just keep your values up there and go, well, we'll just keep our head down and we won't talk about them much for a while till people forget. That's the time to have the hard conversation and bring them out and go, right, we didn't deliver on this. Why not? What happened that got us there? What are we going to do? Do we still want to have this value and live to it and refresh it? We refresh our values at least once a year, often twice. And we go through there, and that's us going through our values, just asking the question, do these still hold true and stand for us? Is there anything when you look at all our values that's missing, that's in there? Because maybe a behavior has emerged, a way that we work that really works well for us. And it's evolved kind of organically, and it's not captured in there. And maybe we want to add it in. You might go, this value we have, that was really important where we were at that time in the business. It's still important, but not that important that it's up the top, if you like. So it needs refreshing, I think.
What I really like about what you've done in the business, in our business, and we do with clients, is when you activate these and amplify them, you don't just have them as an island on posters or on the website, on the internet. It's thinking about how do you weave them into recognition, reward, again, the hard conversations, the positive conversations, training, development, onboarding. We do a quarterly values award, right? Where peer-to-peer nomination. The exec can't be nominated. I'm sure they'd all vote for me anyway if they could, but they can't nominate.
Yes, yes.
And we can't nominate. We can't vote, and that's really important. It's peer-to-peer. What I love is that, as well as a wonderful way to elevate and celebrate behaviors, it is also a good test in itself. You have a look at what people are voting people for. What are the grounds on which someone puts the nomination in? You start to see which values are really being acknowledged by the team and seen and felt every day. And if you get something that never gets anything, well, maybe there's a message in there.
Any CEO who says the values are the most important things in our organization, just ask them how much money do they put behind them. If you're not incentivizing it in some way or relating to it in some way, well, it can't be that important.
Totally. And then you get the job ads. We're a values-led organisation. What the hell does that even mean? You know what I mean? It's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
Thank you both for your time today. It's been, as always, very insightful. Obviously, we've got a lot more we want to cover and can cover, and I'm looking forward to diving deeper into those, but also encouraging people to submit topics or things that they want us to cover as well, and for you guys to dig into.
Thanks, Haz.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. I can't believe the time's gone already. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.